Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center overlooking the Toms River, it's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show, 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. It is 6:08, Monday, April 18th, 41 degrees, getting up to 71 here on WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Don't forget, we are streaming on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com, 732-505-1160 if you want to join the conversation. And this is where I always get stressed, Zach. I'm super stressed because, because now I'm like, so this is going to be a very stressful morning. Let's just start by saying that, okay? Because first I have a whole session with my rabbi, right? So, you know, like, not that I'm standing in judgment or anything, you know what I mean? But so we have a session with the rabbi, and then we have the Ocean County prosecutor coming on after that, right? So what could possibly go wrong this morning, right?
Yeah, nothing could go wrong here.
Yeah, no, it should be totally smooth. So we are joined by Rabbi Ellen Wallensfield, who is the rabbi at Congregation B'nai Israel in Toms River, 65 years strong. Not Rabbi Ellen, the congregation. She's younger. So good morning, Rabbi. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Great to be here.
I know, and you were telling me how excited you were to get up super early this morning and come here.
Super early.
It's great, right?
No, I'm usually up this early, just not out of the house this early.
See, it's one thing if you're sitting there in your footy pajamas drinking coffee, right, and just doing nothing and getting ready for the day. It's something different when you're like, gotta go. And then, be in front of people or...
No traffic on Main Street this morning.
There's no traffic. I don't worry about those crosswalks at all, right? Okay, so Rabbi Ellen, why don't you tell folks first, right? Because I know really we want to talk a lot this morning about autism. And we'll get into why we're talking about that. But before that, I think it's important that folks understand how you got into to the career you've chosen. What was your inspiration? Kind of what did your path look like? Because it's not super common for women to get into rabbinical study, right?
Now it's becoming a little more so. In 1972, which was around the time I came into the world, the Reform movement started ordaining women. Then in 1984, the conservative movement, which I'm part of, they did decide, but through a long discussion, to ordain women. So the first conservative woman was in 1985, around the same time that I was having my bat mitzvah. And but I always wanted to be a rabbi. From the age of 3, I would actually play that my father's scarf was my talit, my prayer shawl, and I would take his kippah, and I always loved studying Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and teaching it to people. And on Friday and Saturdays, I went to services with my father every week, and I would tell him what I learned in school each day. And eventually, they let me give sermons in my parents' synagogue. And then I was ordained in 1999, so I've been a rabbi for 17 years, and came here to Toms River 10 years ago after being in 2 positions in Illinois, which taking the girl out of Brooklyn and going to the northwest suburbs of Illinois was a little different,
right? Where
I met my husband, and we had 2 of our children there, Cameron, who's now 12, and Kobe, who's 10. And around the same time that Kobe was born with a heart defect, tetralogy of Fallot, a hole in his heart, I discovered that my congregation in Chicago couldn't pay me any longer. So I started looking for jobs, interviewed in Toms River very late in the game, and not that I totally believe in Beshert, that things are meant to be, that it was completely meant to be that we came here when Kobe had his open heart surgery 6 weeks before that at 6 months old, and it's a blessing to be in Toms River, and I'll tell you why even more so in a minute about why for Kobe it was really a blessing.
So wait a second. You're telling me that just because a congregation and a synagogue stops paying you, you're out? I mean, really?
No.
I mean,
well,
God, that's so shallow.
Yeah, it was the income. At that point, my husband, he had a great job, but he said to me, I remember the day actually, we were in the kitchen. He said, Ellen, don't apply part-time in Chicago. You're a great rabbi. I'll go anywhere.
Okay. And so what did you know about Toms River? What did you know about Ocean County? Anything?
A friend of mine who had been in USY, United Synagogue Youth, told me that I have to be careful of the water. And I actually knew Rabbi Hammerman because the Rabbi Emeritus, because his son Eitan and I were in a class together. It was just the 3 of us, Eitan, Rebecca, who he was dating at the time, but I didn't realize, now his wife, and me. And I knew Rabbi Hammerman well. And also one of our congregants, Joel Kurtz, his brother Norm Kurtz was one of my congregants in Chicago.
All right, so you had some inside information, and you figured this wasn't a bad place to move the family. So
Not at all.
All right, so now, and by the way, it is important that we note that joining Rabbi Ellen are two of her children this morning, right? So do you want to introduce who's with you?
Yes, she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Cameron Fields. I am 12 years old, and
Where do you go to school?
I go to school at Solomon Schechter Day School of the Greater Monmouth County in Marlborough, New Jersey.
And for the record, Cameron is wearing a tie, so she's way better dressed than I ever come into work for. So way to show me up, Cameron. I really appreciate it.
She wears a tie every day.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hi, my name is Samuel Fields. I'm 7 years old. My school is Solomon Schechter Day School of the Greater Monmouth County.
And where were you born?
I was born in New Jersey.
What? Lakewood.
Okay, so there you go. So now, listen. So my kids are going to be very upset, by the way, because I haven't had my kids on the show yet. But that's okay. So now, when you see Rebecca later on, you can bust her about that. Okay, so we are here specifically, though, to talk about kind of your experiences and the family's experiences with autism. Right. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about that and what, God bless you, and how you kind of were indoctrinated into this whole thing.
It totally was. So Kobe, as I had said, our middle child that's not here with us this morning, who's 10, at 2 days old, he was diagnosed with tetralogy of Fallot, so a heart problem. So he was always developmentally delayed. From 9 months old, he was in early intervention, not because he had any diagnosis except for the heart defect, and he just he wasn't developing properly. He had to have another surgery when he was 11 months old when we were here at Columbia Presbyterian for a hernia. That's when he started crawling. He probably didn't get his first tooth till he was like 14 or 15 months old. He wasn't walking, he wasn't crawling till I said 11 months, and it just wasn't the right development. He didn't make many sounds. He did a lot of like what we call echolalia, repeating things and sounds, but no words. And then at about 23 months, he went to the cardiologist, Dr. Zales in Brick. And Dr. Zales said, maybe when his heart didn't develop properly, his brain didn't develop properly. So I was able to get a quick appointment, which is hard to get, with Dr. Yvette Janvier at Children's Specialized Hospital. And he went through a whole bunch of tests there to see, and I have to say I never expected at the end of the appointment to get the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. And it was amazing because at 23 months he was already in early intervention for 9 months. So early intervention is at least at that point, was pretty much a free way of having people come into the home to have some therapies with him. So we had a developmental interventionist come in, Melissa, who said she might be listening today, who we've kept in touch with. I think she came in almost 5 times a week. We had a speech therapist, a PT, an OT. He also went for outpatient at Children's Specialized Hospital. And slowly he started talking a little more. We never knew if he would actually speak. And those who know Kobe now, he doesn't shut up, thank God.
Right. Okay. So good. So I think what I'd really like to do is when we come back, I'd like to kind of talk about what you've learned and kind of how what that looks like day to day, and maybe how that affects the other kids in the house, and how it's a team effort, because I know it is at the Fields house, and so we'll be talking more with Rabbi Ellen when we come back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Stay tuned.
Rush Limbaugh today at noon. More Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin coming up next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. We'll get you that in a minute. It's great. Now I get to give out the Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin mugs. Rabbi Ellen wants to get mugged, not that way. But anyway, so we were talking about autism. We're talking about we're not talking today about some of the organizations that deal with autism. Obviously, most of you are familiar with Autism Speaks, among others. But we're really talking about kind of the day-to-day, what life looks like. And frankly, there is no better advocate for how to deal or how to, what that looks like than having a spiritual leader who, frankly, addresses a congregation every day and can kind of be a living, breathing kind of testimonial to what that looks like and what life can be like. So talk to us. What does day-to-day life look like? How does it affect the family? And we have some other, expert opinions here with us, so we can maybe hear from them also.
So I'll think back to when Kobe was diagnosed at 23 months old. Cameron was 2 years and 2 months old. And I honestly, when you hear the diagnosis, you don't know what life's going to be like. You don't know if the child's ever going to speak. Kobe has a friend who speaks with a iPad and he points to things. And Kobe at that point was signing just a little bit, but not that much. And I was crying hysterically, basically, in the bedroom that night when he was diagnosed. And Cameron came in, and she had some words of wisdom to me. Do you remember what you said, Cam?
He doesn't talk because he's a baby, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. So you just said that he was a baby. And then I realized that this is life. So we needed to find books on Cameron's level to talk about autism. I should have brought some of them. But there are a lot of children's books. There are probably even more that have been written in the past 8 years. And do you remember us reading together those books? And I would have different reactions, and you would have different reactions to the books. So Cam, why don't you tell us about that?
I think overall I was pretty amazed about it. And I thought it was kind of cool because he is special, having a special brother,
So some of the books would be extremely like Kobe, where he would stop and look at everything constantly. And then I would get upset about something, and Cameron would say, yep, this kid's like Kobe. And then we'd read another book, and I'd be pretty calm. And she's like, he's not like Kobe. And then if the kid was really like Kobe, she'd say to him, Kobe, come over and sit here with us. So things were always pretty unpredictable. It still is that you never know when he's going to have a meltdown, but it's really different than other kids' meltdowns, though I can pick out when a child's having a meltdown because of his or her diagnosis or regular. So I try to not put him in a situation that he's going to freak out, as my husband likes to say. So, for example, we wouldn't go to Toys R Us on a Sunday afternoon just to go to Toys R Us on a Sunday afternoon because he would want everything in the store.
Right.
He wouldn't realize it's one thing. One of the only 2 times have I ever used his diagnosis to help us in a situation. So, for example, a few years ago when we were in Israel, we had to go through customs at Ben Gurion Airport, and there was a line for handicapped. We went straight there, and I said, my son has autism spectrum disorder, which was amazing because a couple minutes later, there were hundreds of people in the airport, and if we hadn't gone through quickly, it would have been really difficult. One Thanksgiving, we had a situation where he was being... Cameron, you want to tell about that one?
He was kind of difficult because he had to go to the bathroom, and we needed to get our luggage checked and on the airplane. But he really had to go to the bathroom. So my mom took him, and then the woman at the baggage said, yeah, we can't take your bags. You're a minute later, so. And so my dad tried to tell her, we need to get on this plane. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. So we ended up having to stay at the airport and go on a flight the next thing that morning.
And recently when I flew alone with him, I asked them for early check-in, which was good. But often you really have no idea what he's going to do. I mean, you could put a bit of tomato sauce on food and he'll freak out and not eat it.
Right.
When he has to take medicine, it's a torture.
But I guess on the other hand, if I had asked you years ago, if you could have been given the way he is today, when you first got the diagnosis, you probably would have signed up for that in a heartbeat, right?
Oh yeah, I love him, and he has a heart of gold. And when he went after early intervention, it's 3 years, and you go to a public school, preschool disabled. They used to call him the mayor there because he knew everyone at 1144, and everyone knew Kobe. And now at Beechwood Elementary, different shout outs to the schools. I love them there. He's like the governor. He knows everybody. I met a nurse the other day who was just subbing there, and she knew exactly who Kobe was because he's just so friendly. I mean, you see him in the synagogue, and he's the friendliest child. Sometimes it's that he needs a little bit of stranger worry. Stranger.
Yeah.
But the other thing he loves is NASCAR. Oh. And he's been to, unfortunately, this Autism Speaks race, May 15th, he won't be able to go to. But he's been to, I don't know, almost a dozen NASCAR races, and he absolutely loves them.
Okay. That's great. So when we come back, and this one's going to be an easy one for you. You know, we always talk about the Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin magic wand, right? So you have the ability to make an impact on something. But I think what we're going to do, all right, is that we're going to give Sammy and Cameron a magic wand too. So we're going to have 3 magic wands. So you guys are going to have to do some thinking about what it is that you want to change in the world. Okay, and it can't just be like I want I want a shopping spree that I could buy all the pretty dresses I want in the whole wide world. You can't just do that. Okay, that's my magic wand. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin here with Rabbi Ellen. We'll be right back after this.
The news is next. Live from the WOBM Newsroom, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. It is 6:33, Monday, April 18th, 41 degrees, getting up to 71 today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pup app and WOBMAM.com. You can join our conversation, 732-505-1160. And we are joined in studio by Rabbi Ellen and her daughter Cameron and her son Sam. And so this is, we are talking a little bit about autism, among other things. But why don't you, we were talking in the break a little about the spectrum and what that kind of looks like and what your experience has been with that. So why don't you talk about that for a second?
So one of the symbols for autism is the puzzle piece and also the rainbow, that the puzzle piece is in different colors. And our children are both puzzling and they fit into the world, but not always so carefully. Sometimes they might be a round peg in a square hole, but they have their own unique abilities. And it is such a spectrum. I didn't really understand at first when Kobe was diagnosed, that when you meet one autistic child with autism, you meet one child with autism. And every person with the diagnosis is so different. Their abilities are different. There's some who are like amazing with railroads, some with like Kobe. We've taught him how to do math using NASCAR drivers like Kyle Busch plus Brad Keselowski equals 20. So that's how 18 and 2.
Was Matt Kennedy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it? I don't know. Whoever it is, I don't remember all this. I try to remember my Hebrew. And it's similar to the children that we have around the Seder table this coming Friday. In the Haggadah, that there are many. There's the smart, the evil, the one who doesn't know how to ask, and the simple child. That they're all children and adults with the diagnosis are so very different. So when Sammy, our youngest, was 23 months, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief that he was okay. And then by like 25, 26 months, things we had tolerated that were totally cool, I realized were more like, maybe he's on the spectrum too, which was totally different than Kobe because Sam probably started talking the minute he could.
Right.
And he walked at like 9 months and he did things early, so that wasn't there. But then Sam would do his things on his own time. We would be at like Sesame Place and we'd say go straight and he'd run to the right and then we'd have to go after him. He also, when he ran to the right, he would walk on his tippy toes, which he still does, but we've had a lot of intervention for that, and because of the stimulation that he needed that. So at 25, 26 months, I said, you know what, maybe Sammy's not quite right either. So we brought him to Dr. Yvette Janvier again, and she did him a test, and he was already in early intervention at that time, because I knew what to look for, and she gave him the same diagnosis. She said, it's because you're so familiar with this that you actually picked it up because it was so subtle with him. So he had early intervention also almost as many times. They came to the preschool he was going to when he phased out of early intervention. He went to 1144, the preschool disabled. And Sam is on the other side of the spectrum where he's exceptionally bright. You could talk to him sometimes and not look at him and think that he's a 30-year-old, if not older. He's got an old soul, but he doesn't get, sorry, Sammy, you don't always get the subtleties and things, but you'll remember how to lead the entire service at synagogue. So he, and And today, he just went through the preschool. By kindergarten, they said, we're not giving him any services. And now at Solomon Schechter, he's doing phenomenally.
Right.
He still occasionally walks on his toes, and
Right.
he has like repetitive motion where he bangs his hands and still on his own wavelength.
Right. But so this is actually, you're advocating for a guest we had on, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago, because we had the folks on from Pre-K Our Way, who are big believers in pre-kindergarten, 3 and 4-year-old programs, and one of their big pushes is that it really helps with identifying, childhood learning disabilities, et cetera, that if dealt with at an earlier age, can oftentimes be kind of worked through and worked out of with the right training, as opposed to having to spend lots more money and lots more time down the road when behaviors have been acquired or learned that now have to be broken. So that's a lot of what you're talking about, actually.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why I asked, I'll admit it, to come in today, because Autism Awareness Month is April, but in our house it's every single day. And I really don't think it's a diagnosis that people should be embarrassed about.
Right.
It only helps having the diagnosis, because denial's not just a river.
Right. And you talked about, I got that. We got that. So we're gonna move along though. It wasn't the greatest. But anyway, so you talked about how you use NASCAR, right? And I think you also mentioned to me in the break how you use like karate and some other activities to kind of help offset this as well. So tell us about that for a minute.
Early on his diagnosis for Kobe, someone told us to, but we were worried he would use it on his siblings, which occasionally he does. Sorry, Sensei. But it really focuses him, and for that hour that he's on the mat training, it really gets him to just be like any other kid. He's now a yellow belt in karate, goes to Tiger Schulman and Brick, used to be here in Toms River. And he does amazing. Though, when he gets frustrated and doesn't know how to express himself, Sammy will occasionally be the recipient. Yes, Sam? And he loves sports completely. Like now, any sport. I wish he would realize that there are, over 100 baseball games, because he tells us exactly who's in first place already. And I'm like, it's early in the season. And Kobe doesn't know that he's any different. He knows he's in a small class, but he has no idea why.
Right.
He once told me that autistic means that you're good at art. So.
All right. So, okay, good. It's time. It is magic wand time. All right. So we give you all a magic wand, and we say you can do one thing, make one thing happen, make one thing change without having to ask mom or dad's permission, right? And you can just wave your wand, and it happens. So who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay. So when I was younger, I was
Says the 12-year-old, by the way. Go ahead.
I was really kind of into it, fascinated by the whole autism thing, and I really wanted to help people. So if I had my magic wand, I'd probably want to open a camp for autistic children, and then also people without autism can go. And it will kind of teach the autistic children and the people without autistic children to accept each other and to work with each other, and in a positive way.
That is awesome. And that's really one of the main focuses of Autism Speaks is education, because a lot of it's not just about those with autism, but really educating the rest of the world about how to better deal and how to better understand what it's all about. So that was awesome, Cam. You got anything?
Not really.
No magic wand for you. You're going to take the magic wand and you're going to put it in your suitcase and you're going to keep it till later? All right, maybe you could use it at school today, okay?
Okay.
All right, cool. Rabbi, what do you have?
I believe that it's the whole magic wand mindset, to not look at what the person can't do, but what they can do. And to just accept, and it goes for everything, not just for autism, but for everything in life, that's just accept who they are, to be in the moment, which Kobe often is. He forgets what happened before or after, but still he can be very focused. But to really not look at what he can't do, that he can't do the multiplication, but that he can speak. And to have the right mindset to not worry about the future, ironically for me.
Right.
And to just see how capable he is and how many gifts he has, and to turn every challenge into a blessing, which we try to do.
Awesome. All right, good. So that's very good. So that's 2 out of 3 magic wands used. We have one that's going to be hanging out somewhere in the universe, so we'll have to figure that out later. Rabbi, where can folks learn more about Congregation B'nai Israel, where you actually your paying job is? Because that is a congregation that does pay, by the way.
Yes, and I do have to say that it was a blessing to come to Toms River because the Toms River Regional Schools has an incredible early intervention after autism program. And so Congregation B'nai Israel, www.cbitr.org on 1488 Old Freehold Road. You're welcome, and as my community has shown, everyone is welcome to be there. And it's just a wonderful synagogue associated with the conservative movement, but we take people from all walks of Judaism and combined families as well.
Absolutely. So very cool. Rabbi Ellen, thank you so much. Sam, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You're welcome. Say you're welcome. Say you're welcome. Oh, cool. Yeah. Great. Then you're supposed to say it was really great to be here. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. It was great to be here.
Oh, that was excellent. See,
Thank you, Jeremy.
Good.
It was fantastic.
Thank you so much. Talking autism and Congregation B'nai Israel. We'll be back with more Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin right after this.